Live now. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Welcome to today's meeting. Please note that the meeting will be live broadcast and will be available to view on the Combine Authority YouTube channel. Just please make sure you are using the microphones when speaking. Item 1 today is apologies for absence. Are there any apologies for this morning?
I have an apology from Councillor Dave Merritt from City of York Council.
Thank you very much. And just to confirm that Paul Clark is in position for Grace Anthony as well. Item 2 is minutes held on 27th of February 2026. Minutes can be found on page 5 of the agenda pack. Members' content of the minutes are correct. Just a note. Item 3 is declaration of interest. Is there any declaration of interest at all? No. Okay. Item 4 is public participation. We have received 10 members of the public wishing to speak and have their statements read today. So I'll take those in present who are here present first, and then I'll ask Elizabeth to read those who cannot be in person. So we do have to take Blake, would you like to come in first if you are available? Just on mute.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, good morning. Mayor, whilst this authority plays past the parcel with delegated bus powers, our neighbours steam ahead with franchising operations, the People's Network in South Yorkshire and the Weaver franchise in West Yorkshire. This report cites staff changes and capacity constraints in relation to bus powers, and yet City of York Council pleads the same. So no wonder passengers are becoming frustrated by the absence of long-promised improvements to services. Section 3.3 lists accessibility improvements to support access for disabled people. I reject the use of the term additional needs because it makes access sound burdensome. Disability equality training for officers clearly required. So let's focus on access. I've been the disability rep on the York Enhanced Partnership since its inception in September 2022. My repeated raising of access issues across the piece resulted in the setting up of a task and finish group to examine barriers for disabled people to bus travel, and I, as a community volunteer, wrote the paper that formed the basis of subsequent discussion. This, after lengthy delay, caused in my opinion by lack of political support and priority, resulted in a tracker of issues against which progress might be measured by the EP. Then in short order, EP meetings were suspended, preventing this from happening. It last met on 23rd of April last year, was scheduled to meet this week, but has now been postponed until April to allow combined authority officers to join. The tracker has been shunted into a siding, supposedly overseen by the Access Forum, on which there is no elected member or bus operator presence. Even more alarming is the notification to shift to a single meeting every 6 months, lasting 6 hours. As a disabled person with multiple impairments and chronic health conditions, I cannot do a 6-hour meeting. If I could, I would be in work rather than giving my time and expertise for free. So my questions are these. Is this a deliberate attempt to remove community reps from having any input into bus matters? Do you believe the participation of people representing communities who use buses every day, many without alternative, enhances or detracts from the decision-making processes governing bus services? And to help with that answer, I've been working on accessibility within the industry for over a quarter of a century and have delivered driver training and consultancy to bus operators. And returning to the progress of neighbouring authorities, last autumn I spent 2 hours with the newly appointed officer for bus procurement for the Weaver franchise. New to the bus industry from construction, he had a much better understanding of bus access by the end of it. And thanks to the efforts of multiple campaigners, we have just announced all new buses will have 2 wheelchair spaces, plus a pram luggage flexible space and numerous other features enhancing access, including automatic ramps, massively reducing boarding and alighting time. Is there a desire within this authority for real change to benefit bus passengers, or are we just going to continue to be dictated to by bus operators. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Flick, and thank you for your time and thank you for your comments today. And we will take those away and they'll be taken into consideration when we come further to items. Thank you very much, Flick. Next speaker is Hazel Peacock, who I believe is in person. You've got to come forward. Hazel, you have 3 minutes whenever you'd like to begin. Thank you.
This is working. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you, Mayor. Road safety improvements, infrastructure and initiatives save and change lives. It is fantastic to see the commitment to scale up school streets and other improvements across the combined authority region. When my children started school in Oatlands Harrogate, the community was incredibly congested with a hostile environment at school drop-off and pick-up time, high levels of car dependency for school travel and frequent near misses around the school gates. This resulted in limited active travel and transport independence by school children. Through collaboration across the community with schools, parents, residents and local businesses, we now have a school street, 2 park and stride locations, creating a safe environment around the school, enabling 500 pedestrian trips every school day, and 93% of pupils actively travel to Oatlands Junior School each week. We have a community bike bus, now one of the biggest in the UK, with 65 to 100 attendees each ride, which we run in partnership with Oatlands Infant School and Oatlands Junior School. And we are very thankful to the Walk Wheel Cycle Trust for helping us set it up. The evidence surrounding road safety and active travel and the impacts on health and well-being cannot be ignored. In 2022, the National Travel Survey reported that 40% of trips to and from school were for 5 to 10-year-olds were by car. There is a 44% relative increase in the likelihood of death for an adult pedestrian or cyclist hit by an SUV or a similarly large car compared with a standard car, and for children, an 82% relative increase in the likelihood of death by an SUV compared to a standard car. That was reported in the BMJ in November last year. Furthermore, Transport for London evidence shows that a pedestrian is 5 times less likely to be killed at 20 miles an hour versus 30 miles an hour. Talking on active travel last summer, Chris Whitty, Chief Medical Officer, stated, "If people don't get into the habit when they are children, it will be very difficult to do so afterwards." As childhood obesity is now above the national average in North Yorkshire, initiatives to enable safe and active travel are crucial. Children and young people across the region have a right to safe journeys to school and transport independence across their communities. Putting them at the heart of decision making protects them, gives freedom and ensures communities and spaces are suitable for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, Hazel. They'll be taken forward when we come into items 6 and 7 later in the agenda. Thank you very much. Simon, I have next. Simon's like to come forward, and you also have, please take a seat in your own time. You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, that's great. Thank you.
This is a statement from Coxwold Parish Council at this meeting, and it's about traffic issues. Over the last 6 years, we've engaged on a variety of levels in North Yorkshire Council and the police. Whilst we've made some progress reducing speeding in the village, with the introduction in 2019 of the mobile vehicle activated sign and ongoing visits from the police speed camera van. In spite of these positive steps over the last 5 years, we've had five major incidents resulting in cars being written off, a local bus being badly damaged, 2 major crashes where the cars couldn't be driven away, and cyclists knocked off bike, requiring emergency response. I wasn't that cyclist, but I do say. Each of these accidents was attributable to excessive speeding through the village. In a recent survey within the village, the entire village thought that speeding was a major issue. Incidentally, 87% replied to the 100% survey. We need a more proactive council and continued police response given the increase in traffic volumes and speed. Possible improvements include support for a 4th chicane in the village on Thirsk Bank. 20 is plenty zone, very feasible, and a speed stroke average variable speed camera set up to try and deter people from speeding. The likelihood of another incident involving serious injury or death is high given our past history, and we need North Yorkshire Council, police and highways to engage proactively as a matter of urgency. The parish council and the villagers are prepared to help some of the costs incurred in helping reduce speeding in our village. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sorry, thank you. Take it into consideration during item 7 and 8. Thank you very much. Rosie? Thank you again, Rosie, once again. Take a seat, start your own time. You have 3 minutes whenever you're ready. Thank you.
It's already
If
on.
it's got a red thing on it, should be on.
Lovely. So I
Yeah, that's on.
thank you. So I will be advocating for a pedestrian crossing near the junction of Station Road and Low Road in Freshfield. I want to highlight to this forum, as a parent and as a GP, the importance of the short and long-term physical and mental health of our population of being able to walk or cycle safely to school. The junction in question is at the bend on the bottom of a steep hill. Restricted visibility means there is no point at which pedestrians can adequately see traffic coming from both directions. The road is a thoroughfare for tractors with huge trailers, double-decker buses, dairy wagons and other large haulage vehicles. The crossing is unavoidable for those walking to school to Freshfield Primary School. The school presently has 96 pupils and in addition opened a nursery, adding approximately 20 children to the school. This has increased traffic at the junction. Every day, about 12 families with small children, including myself, take their lives in their hands crossing the road here. Every week, 50 children from Freshfield Primary School have to cross here to walk to their swimming lessons at Upper Walkdale School. On the night of the 19th of July, just 3 days after Yorkshire Dales Parks visited the site, there was a head-on collision at this junction. As we all know, Mayor David Scaife has identified walking children safely to school as a priority, and we believe conditions at this junction discourage families from walking to school, creating a vicious cycle, putting more pedestrians at risk. Installing a junction would be the most obvious and significant way of addressing the problem. The crossing is of course used by numerous locals and countless tourists in addition to school pupils. It has been a hazard for many years, but with the increased volume of traffic and size of vehicle, it is becoming a significant concern. 261 parents and community members signed a petition in response to a consultation to support this. We strongly urge you to consider and approve this proposal. And I believe it is only a matter of time if the current situation continues before there is likely a serious accident likely a fatality at this junction.
Very much for your comments. They'll be taken into consideration later in the agenda items. Julian, next. Thank you very much. Once again, start in your own time and you have 3 minutes. Thank you very much.
This on?
Yeah, that's on.
Thank you. Thank you. Right, I'm Gillian Taylor. I'm the lead coordinator for the campaign for average and fixed speed cameras in North Yorkshire. And as of today, there are 96 parish and town councils that have signed up in support of this campaign, just in case there is any doubt as to support for this initiative. So I'm from Cowling. It's a rural village on a major A road. We're sandwiched between Lancashire and West Yorkshire, and the road connects all 3 counties, running straight through the centre of our village. Now, West Yorkshire and Lancashire have average and fixed speed cameras. North Yorkshire has none. Many drivers are aware of this and they take advantage to satisfy their need for speed on our stretch of the road. Nationally, fatalities and serious injuries, which are referred to as KSIs, have been decreasing year on year, but North Yorkshire's numbers are not. In fact, in some cases, they're increasing. A recent FOI tells us 41 people died on our roads last year, which is a 52% increase on 2024. We can't allow this to continue. We've got to do something. There's a wealth of research on the efficacy of average and fixed speed cameras in reducing KSIs, including your own research from the University of Newcastle. Financially, based on the Department of Transport's figures, the average cost of fatality is £2.2 million, and a serious injury is £250,000. So using these figures, last year's KSIs in North Yorkshire amounted to over £175.5 million. So just halving this figure would provide quite a healthy budget for average and fixed speed cameras. The cost of average speed cameras over the 5-mile stretch on the Bingley bypass in West Yorkshire was a mere £230. That's less than the cost of a single serious injury, and it's the cost of 10% of one fatality. The community impact of speeding is huge. Over 10,000 cars travel through Cowling daily. Speeding and antisocial driving occurs both day and night, and one driver recorded himself travelling 105 miles per hour and posted it on social media to show off. Over a decade ago, the police deemed Cowling so dangerous residents could no longer participate in the community speed watch. The road has been deemed too dangerous for a crossing guard. In 2021, Cowling was designated a KSI site. In the last 6 months, Cowling has had 10 car crashes, walls demolished, telegraph poles knocked down, the weather station totally obliterated, and cars landing on their roofs. Requests to lower speed limits have been denied on the basis of a low chance of compliance. In other words, just put up with it until people die. I'm asking how many people need to die, because it's only a matter of time in Cowling, which is an identified KSI site. Cowling is a lovely North Yorkshire village, yet some residents are talking of selling their houses to move away because of the dangers and the noise. Parents worry about their children going to school, the corner shop, sports ground, and the chip shop. There's no need for people to live like this. All of this makes life far from idyllic and far from safe, and many villages across North Yorkshire are suffering exactly the same. So please save lives and make our community safer. Thank you. Thanks for the time.
Thank you very much for your comments. Thank you very much. So, you have start work when you're ready. You have 3 minutes to make it. Thank you.
Thank you. For the past couple of years, Tadcaster Town Council has been coordinating efforts to reduce road speed in the town. At the start of 2024, we acquired 2 vehicle-activated signs, which move between 6 sites in the town every couple of months. And later that year, we began operating a community speed watch in the town. And the combination of these has had some effect in reducing speeds in areas where they operate. Particularly on Wetherby Road, one of the worst affected areas in the town, the average speed has dropped from 36 miles an hour 2 years ago to 34.5 today, but I hope you'll all agree this is still a worryingly high speed, considering it is on the approach to one of the town's 2 primary schools. And while there is a 20-mile-an-hour zone with speed humps near the entrance to the school, I can tell you as a member of the Speed Watch, that is not always respected, and it was not respected by 7 drivers yesterday lunchtime. I believe there are 2 main reasons why we have such significant speed in this stretch of road. First is the abrupt transition from a 60-mile-an-hour limit to a 30-mile-an-hour limit at the top of a hill, This is something we've previously been in touch with this authority and North Yorkshire Council about. We hope a 40-mile-an-hour buffer zone is something that could be considered before the current transition. And the other main factor is the fact that it has not been physically possible to place a police speed ban on Wetherby Road due to the road layout. In other areas of the town where there have been police speed bans deployed over the last decade, there have been large reductions in average road speeds. As effective as the measures we have already taken have been, I firmly believe that the greatest deterrent to speeding is speed tickets, and that in the areas of the town I've discussed, potentially others as well, fixed speed cameras are the only realistic way of delivering this deterrent. I'm aware, and I think we all are, of the mindless destruction of a speed camera on the A64 last year, but I would encourage this authority not to let it deter them from the very real need from these speed cameras. I regularly drive around the rural parts of the Leeds City area, including villages such as Thorpe Arch and Scarcroft, where fixed speed cameras have been deployed for quite some time now. They've all remained free of vandalism, and they are, I think, appreciated by the residents. They do a valuable job of reducing speeds, and I think this is something that Northern York and North Yorkshire would greatly benefit from. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your comments. They'll be taken consideration in item 7 and 8 as well. And finally, in person, Mr. Kerfoot. David Kerfoot. And again, you start in your own time. David, you've got 30 minutes. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and colleagues. I have a simple, but I feel very important question to ask of you. A good and well-maintained road network is essential to business, and particularly to growth in the region, which we all want to see in a really positive manner. Connectivity and those well-maintained roads are part of this when investors come to North Yorkshire and North Yorkshire to look to invest, to build new businesses and to grow. It's also important from the point of view of existing businesses who want to expand. Past couple of winters have been absolutely awful, in particular the last one. And there's been significant damage to the infrastructure on all our roads. And let's face it, we have plenty of roads, being the region with the largest number of roads, I believe, in the country, something like 2,500 miles. So that takes a lot of maintenance. Many of them are badly damaged. Potholes are a regular conversation. And they're a big issue whether you live in Mewker, York or Northallerton. So what I ask is this: will there be a conversation with business and communities about this important subject? And will the issue be discussed at your business board, Mr. Mayor? I think it should be, to get businesses' opinion. And what are your plans for action in this important area?
Thank you very much for your comments, David. They will come to the item later on in the meeting where you'll be able to see the investment that's coming forward into roads and the wider piece. And I think there is an opportunity to bring a wider transport piece to the business board in the future as well. Thank you very much for your time, David. Now for written statements. I'll read the first one. So one question from Mr. Jeff Archer. As a local North Yorkshire business, our vehicles need to get round the county on a daily basis. The roads are in the worst condition ever, and for much of North Yorkshire, there is no choice other than to use the car. So why are you moving money to York at the expense of North Yorkshire, where transport options are so much more restricted? I can only assume this is a thinly veiled attempt to prop up your Labour colleagues for the City of York Council elections, which should be putting business at the forefront of your decisions. Thank you very much for your statement there, or question, Mr. Archer. That will be taken into consideration for items 7 and 8. And questions, statements as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. So the first statement is from Jane Manston. I'm a resident of Rusbrook Lane with Whitby. We have a huge problem with speeding on a daily basis with no respite. Despite numerous promises of a police mobile speed unit coming to the designated site, we are lucky if this happens once a year. There are no police to enforce, so a fixed speed camera would be hugely beneficial to the B1416 specifically the Roosevelt Lane section, which is residential with a speed limit of 30 miles per hour. With the slowing down of traffic due to the numerous sets of traffic lights, 5 in less than 2 miles on the A171, B1416 is now the fastest route through Whitby, according to SatNav. And then the second statement is from Chris Boardman, who is the National Active Travel Commissioner for Active Travel England. Dear board members, before becoming National Active Travel Commissioner, I was Transport Commissioner for Andy Burnham in Greater Manchester, one of the largest and most complex transport networks outside of London. In that role, I saw at first hand what happens when a region is willing to back active travel with genuine commitment and resource, and equally, what is lost when the arguments for caution and convention win out. It is that experience that leads me to write to you today in strong support of the allocated funding for active travel schemes across Yorkshire and North Yorkshire. I can speak to this not only professionally but personally. For 5 years, while working as Transport Commissioner, I gave up my car entirely. That was only possible because of a single, simple 6-kilometre path connecting where I lived to a local station. 6 kilometres, that is all it took. Because of that path, I did not drive an estimated 14,000 miles a year. Over 5 years, that is 70,000 miles off the road, equivalent to roughly 20 tonnes of CO2 avoided, and thousands of additional journeys added to the public transport network. One piece of infrastructure, one person, the numbers scale quickly when you apply that logic across the region. It is not a leisure or health amenity, though it also serves other purposes. It is a public transport feeder. That path is part of the Wirral Way, a well-used recreational corridor, a draw to the region and an essential part of what the Wirral Peninsula offers to visitors and residents alike. Good active travel infrastructure does both things at once. It enables everyday journeys in whole or as part of long trips. It supports the kind of placemaking that attracts people and investment. The two are complementary, not contradictory. Whether someone is accessing a rural bus stop or arriving at York Station, active travel is the essential first and last stage of that journey. An estimated 34 to 36 million public transport journeys per year in North Yorkshire alone, and around 25 million in York, including 11.8 million rail passengers and over 13 million bus users. The scale of what is at stake is significant. Improving active travel links is not an enhancement. It is central to improving the performance and patronage of your entire transport system. I also think of my grandchildren who scoot to school. It is only possible because the space they travel through is safe and connected. They are not unusual. Research consistently shows that children's independent mobility has declined sharply over recent decades, with traffic danger cited as a primary reason. Safe, well-designed, active travel infrastructure gives children back that independence. The health, developmental and social benefits that both from that are well evidenced and long-lasting. Which brings me to the second point I'd like to address, the argument that things have always been done this way. Greater Manchester, we heard exactly the same thing, and it was true. Indeed, it led to untenable congestion and 250 million car journeys a year of less than 1 kilometre being driven. I gently suggest that this is precisely why change is needed. Decades of prioritising motor traffic above all else left us with communities where walking, wheeling and cycling feel neither safe nor convenient for most people. We have removed that choice by considering active travel a bolt-on. We are dealing with the impact of those decisions. The regions that are now reaping the benefits of investment in active travel, health outcomes, in local economies, reduce pressure on growth, are those that were willing to do something differently. Greater Manchester is one of them. After 5 years of rebalancing and building choice back in, cycling is up 20% and walking up 21%. York and North Yorkshire have a genuine opportunity to follow that lead and give the unique character and landscape of the region to go even further. I understand that there are genuine questions being raised about whether this money could be better directed towards road repairs, and I want to address that directly. Residents across the region absolutely do care about the state of their roads, and that concern is legitimate, but the evidence is clear. When people are asked what they truly want for their communities, they consistently say they want safer streets, cleaner air, and places where their children can move around. Active travel infrastructure delivers all of this. Spending every penny on filling potholes, while understandable, will not address the deeper challenges that our towns and villages face. It simply maintains the status quo. The oversubscription of your Mayor's Active Travel Fund, £3.5 million in applications against 2.4 million available, is itself a powerful signal. Partners are ready to deliver and the unmet demand is substantial. On safety, I want to be clear that Active Travel England shares your commitment to ensuring that our roads and streets are safe for everyone. This is something I feel personally and professionally. Good active travel design does not pit cyclists and pedestrians against drivers. It creates clearer, better organised streets that reduce conflict and improve safety for all road users. Investment in walking, wheeling and cycling infrastructure is investment in road safety. These are not competing priorities, they are the same priority. Ultimately, the question before this board is a simple one. What future do you want to build? More of the same, a transport system designed around a single mode with diminishing returns and growing costs, or a system that offers genuine choice, which is more sustainable and that delivers a better quality of life for everyone who works, lives and grows up here. The decisions made in this room today will shape the transport system that the next generation lives. I hope the board will feel reassured that this funding represents a genuine opportunity to improve lives, to future-proof your transport network, to give your constituents the choices they deserve. I and my team at Active Travel England remain ready to support you every step of the way. Yours sincerely, Ms. Ford.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. And thank you to all 10 members of the public speaking and sending statements today. I believe that is a record, and thank you for everyone who's been engaged in that, and say your comments will be taken forward for the appropriate items. Item 5 is Mayor's update. So just a few things just to tick off over the last month or so since the last meeting. The Movement Activity and Sport Fund was announced, and that's backed 49 projects currently so far in the first round, particularly the women's cricket at Alton Towers Cricket Club, supporting the club's promotion into the Premier League, and also one of the ones in York was improving the netball facilities at Hackspeed to make them much more inclusive and accessible. This week we launched the Connect to Work scheme, which is supporting more people to work, education and training through £10 million of further devolved funding. The third road investment strategy was announced yesterday. Improving connectivity across York and North Yorkshire is absolutely vital. And welcoming, obviously, the news of one of the largest road projects in the north, the A66, is set to get underway from September. I know many residents will be disappointed about the A64 and the York Outer Ring Road were not included in these. These are obviously incredibly important schemes, and we've been pushing, I've been pushing since I was elected. These schemes do unfortunately have vast price tags attached, and the pressures on public finances means they're not currently viable. There have been decades of false starts and misleading promises on the A64 particularly, and today marks the end of that speculation. Start working together locally to work out how we make the existing roads safer and better, more efficient for everyone. We also were announced this month that we are going to be the lead sponsor of York Pride, which brings circa 17,000 people, I think it is, to York that weekend. It's a great celebration of the city and the wider community. I was elected co-chair of Transport for the North, which is a great opportunity, and supporting the coordination and integration of the Northern Transport Network into the other areas that we're working across in the North. Just last week, this week I think it was, welcomed the Rural Crime Network Conference and the Policing Minister to York alongside my Deputy Mayor Joe Coles. And we also attended the Mayoral Council in Bristol, which was opportunity to engage with government ministers and the public sector, particularly around police reform, growth and further devolved powers. Also, along with Yorkshire leaders, we met with Yorkshire Water. We know there is still huge challenges around Yorkshire Water, the 250,000 hours of discharge last year, which obviously clearly isn't good enough. And mayors and leaders, including Carl and Claire with me here today, we will be continuously working with Yorkshire Water to hold to account and make sure they are doing more and improving their services. Item 6 we'll move on to is the, oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I know this is your update, but I think it would be remiss if I didn't mention the A64.
Yeah,
you've alluded to, and the suggestion is now that I think it's going backwards. It doesn't even stall. It's actually going backwards, and once again we're having disappointment from government, as indeed we had a disappointment in our government, who made some bold claims about it and then never delivered on it. But the suggestion from the minister is that local leaders are going to get together to talk about it. Well, I think that's you and me, and possibly Claire for that bit of the A64 around Popcroft. But I just wonder, how are we going to do that? Have you got some thoughts about that?
Yeah, well, obviously the announcement was only this past few days or so, so we do need to sit down and have that conversation, because as you quite rightly said, it does affect you, as it does in North Yorkshire. I think the challenge on the A64 has been banded around for a very long time, and we obviously need to really understand what the feasible opportunities are with it, because the price tag is through the roof currently. It needs to work out the best way to see some improvements, how we best take that forward, but also how it links into the wider transport. But I'm sure sooner rather than later we should sit down and have those conversations now. At least from your interest. That's good.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wouldn't like the public to be under the impression, and I'm sure it wasn't intended by yourself, that you've given up on the A64 duly, because we all know that the key to success on the coast is connectivity. I hear what you say, that we've got to work on a short, medium term plan, but can you make a clear statement, please, that you haven't given up on the East Coast and Scarborough, and by not giving up on them, you will put your shoulder to the wheel and still pursue dualling and funding for the A64. We know it's a big disappointment, and it has been by previous governments as well, so it's not a tribal point I'm making, but I think the power of your office still will hold some strength.
Yeah, and as I've said all the way from the start, if we had the money to do it, we will do it tomorrow, and we will keep pushing. And obviously, but my priority is to have a plan that can be delivered. Obviously, on the A64, it's been banded around, I think, for many decades. Yes, we will keep pushing for it, but we can't just keep waiting for something that might happen eventually, which is why we need to push with government, obviously, on that, but also how we can develop other forms of transport to be able to improve the connectivity over to the coast. And there has to be more than one way of doing that. If we just waited for the dual A64, we'll be waiting for a long time. So we need to make sure that we are developing everything else at the same time, as we have always done, is pushing for that A64. Thank you, everyone, for that. So item 6, the 2025-2026 Q3 budget update. I'll hand over to Mike to present on this report. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the Q3 budget update for the 2025-26 financial year, covering our financial performance up to the 31st of December 2025. The purpose of the report is to provide the CA with an update on performance versus budget. And at this point, our financial position remains stable and is in line with expectations as presented at Q2, with variances driven mainly by profiling and timing across multi-year programmes. The recommendation on this report for members is to note the contents of the report. In terms of key headlines, the overall budget position, the revised total budget for the year stands at £168.7 million following adjustments and reprofiling. And the forecast outturn for the year is 150.1 million, with unspent funding carried forward in line with grant conditions and expected delivery schedules. In terms of core budget performance, core services are forecasting an underspend of 0.94 million, mainly due to lower staffing costs, including recruitment phasing and reduced pension contributions versus the original budget. In addition, there's additional income largely from stronger treasury returns, which means our core budget is expected to transfer £2.8 million back into reserves overall, strengthening reserves for future years. In terms of revenue programme position, revenue programmes are forecasted expenditure of 49.46 million, around 94% of the revised budget. The variance, as previously mentioned, is largely due to programme phasing, particularly within workforce and skills, where delivery profiles are being refined. Most unspent allocations will carry forward to support ongoing delivery. In terms of capital programme position, the capital delivery is expected to forecast £95.64 million, or 87% of the revised budget, reflecting the expected lead times for large infrastructure and development projects. The key driver of the variance is the brownfield housing programme, where developer delivery timelines mean expenditure will continue into the next year, despite full commitment of the available fund. In terms of the mayoral investment fund, of the 81 million allocated for the 2023 to 2028 mayoral term, 67.5 million has now been committed, with 13.5 million remaining uncommitted, with no new allocations since the budget reports in October. The next update will capture any further commitments to the fund that may be agreed at this meeting. In summary, Chair, the authority remains in a financially stable position.
Thank you very much, Mike. I think really great progress again for yourself, and considering that we're only 2 years old, I think to see where we are in terms of getting money out the door, it should be highly applauded on that, and obviously setting about right foundations for further investment right across the region. Do members have any comments or questions for Mike on that? No? Okay. Can I seek a proposer and a seconder?
Opposed.
And all those in favour? Thank you, Mike. Item 7 is delivering the Mayor's bus powers. This is a report from the Director of Transport, Claire, to present on this. Thank you, Claire.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mayor. For those that haven't met me, I think most of you have, I'm Claire Hoskins. I'm the Director of Transport at the Combined Authority. I've been in post for a few months, and I think we've heard already this morning the to-do list is quite significant. So this is the first of 2 papers that I'm presenting this morning that relates to the Mayor's bus powers and delivering those in the 26-27 financial year. The devolution deal that created the Combined Authority included considerable powers over bus services that were previously held by North Yorkshire and City of York Council as the constituent authorities. When the Mayor was elected, the Combined Authority did not have the resource to deliver those powers, so they've been delegated back to the 2 constituent local authorities over the last 2 years. That allows the local authorities to continue the day-to-day delivery of supported bus services and related functions, including management of partnerships, bus stations, concessionary fares, and so on. The current delegation that we have in place is due to finish at the end of this month, and the report proposes to extend this for a further 12-month period. There have been staff changes and capacity constraints within the Combined Authority that mean we're not currently in a position to take those powers back, but we appreciate it is a mayoral priority to bring bus powers in-house over the next 12 months, and Combined Authority officers will be working closely with our local authority counterparts to ensure that process is progressed at pace over the next year. In the meantime, the Mayor has used his mayoral powers to deliver a number of positive improvements on our bus network. That includes a very successful under 19 concessionary fare, and that £1 service has been taken up by millions of individuals over the last 12 months. We've also seen benefits for NHS staff at York Hospital. We've seen real-time improvements delivered and specific subsidies delivered to services including Moors Bus and Dales Bus that provide essential commuter and tourist services during the summer months. So much to be delivered, but much still to do. And the form of progressing that has taken place through a bus service review exercise that's been taking place in recent months. Stage 1 of that is now completed, which has set out possible options for transfer or removal or changes to bus powers. And the next step is to progress that into a detailed feasibility and operational review of bus powers and what day-to-day functions may be transferred from local authorities to the Combined Authority. This is a complex process and will involve significant partnership working with our local authority counterparts. But as I mentioned earlier, we appreciate the need to progress this at pace. So bringing officers and members back to recommendations. Recommendation 1 proposes that the Mayor devolve powers related to the provision of bus services delegated to North Yorkshire and City of York councils from the 1st of April to the 31st of March 2027. Second recommendation is for the 3 authorities working together continue the bus service review, with Combined Authority officers providing quarterly updates to the Combined Authority's Transport Advisory Board on progress of bringing bus service powers back under the Combined Authority. Very happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Claire, for the update. And obviously, I know I have big aspirations for buses across York and North Yorkshire. I know our residents and public does as well. That the most important thing is to remain those services are delivered for passengers. I would obviously welcome this huge engagement from both local authorities to deliver the bus services and working closely with my officers as well to make sure that we get this right. Do members or have any comments or questions for this? Jackson, come in there.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Claire, for the report and all the work that you've done on it. It is great to see the success of the mayoral programmes. In particular, the £1 bus fare for young people seems to be massively successful. That may cause us a problem, the success of that, because the more people who use it, the more it costs the combined authority. And I think we will need to address that into the future, because we most definitely want to see our young people getting into the habit of public transport. And of course, if you're a young person in North Yorkshire, that £1 fare gives you a big bang for your buck in terms of the distance that you can travel in the largest county in England. Just in terms of the delegation of powers, York stands ready to continue delivering its bus service for its residents, but it would be remiss of me not to say that it is disappointing that the bus powers have not been picked up so far by the mayoral combined authority. I understand the reasons for that are to do with capacity, and I think it is it is the right decision that's been made to continue the delegation. But I want to emphasise, in terms of the second part of the recommendation, the urgency with which we need to get to grips with this, so that the powers do sit with the combined authority into the future. So thanks for the work so far. The last point I was going to raise was in relation to comments from I think it was Flick Williams. It's disappointing to hear that access seems to have slipped off the agenda a little bit on buses. Obviously, any bus services that we provide need to be fully accessible, and I think going forward we also need to be making sure we engage with all of those groups to ensure that we have access for everybody on our buses. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Did you want to come back in on this?
If I may briefly, thank you, Mayor. I think Councillor Kilbane does make a very valid point, and I appreciate that there is a member feeling, if you like, that perhaps the bringing of bus powers back in-house should have been progressed more quickly, and it's not a perspective that I disagree with. I do absolutely understand that the position we're in is not absolutely where we want to be right now, but I appreciate the importance of bringing those services back in. Just want to reiterate our commitment as officers to progressing that at speed over the coming months. Thank you also, Councillor, for the reminder of the comments from the member of the public earlier in the meeting. I'm actually a wheelchair user myself, so I do appreciate some of the accessibility challenges of public transport, particularly in more rural areas. I'd be very happy to have a separate conversation with Ms Williams about that. I'll pick that up outside of the meeting.
Thank you very much for that. Glad we were going to be able to do that. Any more comments or yes?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I mean, clearly this is a council decision rather than just our decision around this table. I have set up a meeting at the earliest opportunity following this meeting by holding an extra executive committee meeting next Tuesday, which is the first opportunity. I'm happy to recommend to colleagues that go ahead, continue with this scheme of delegation, though I would have preferred to have handed it back by now. But I'm sure, and I can't speak for my colleagues, but I'm sure that there will be some questions that they will put to Gareth and myself at that meeting about more details of any future decisions that are going to be taken about things like cap values and services and subsidies, etc. So I would hope that we could actually have that information ready by Tuesday. Originally, there was also an extension period mentioned at the time that we were discussing this. That has now gone. Equally, a shorter notice period has disappeared, which we might have wanted to have in there still. If we actually feel in the next year that this is just not working whatsoever. So I just hope that, you know, I'm giving notice that there may be some questions to be answered next Tuesday. So I hope that we can have the evidence to answer that. We'll talk further about the work streams that we're going to set up, and I will keep repeating the work streams must also include how we are going to deal with home to school transport, whether that be North Yorkshire Council or the combined authority. It is such a big topic for us. We cannot ignore it.
Did you want to points as well?
Yeah, I think most of them are points to note rather than necessarily points to respond to today. I understand that your executive board meeting is on Tuesday. We are working with your director with responsibility for public transport to try and ensure you have all the information that you need to guide those discussions prior to the meeting. With regards to home school transport, yes, we have discussed this previously and absolutely understand the challenges of the interlinked nature between running those services and supportive services. We have mentioned that specifically in the report as needing to be a work stream that will need very specific and concentrated attention to make sure that we get that right, but noted, and to make sure that we pick that up in its way.
Oh, sorry.
It's just that point around funding. So thank you, Mayor. Just obviously the clarity we need is around the funding going forward, because clearly supporting the fare cap has consequences on other funding that's being provided to support primarily services in North Yorkshire. And if that funding isn't going to be in place, then clearly we need to serve notice on the operators of that, which we'd rather not do. I think the report makes reference to actually continuing the review. We would rather review everything in the round, that funding being in place, and make proper decisions about what support's provided for the benefit of residents of the county, rather than being forced into making a short-term decision because of the funding changes. So that'd be really good if we could have that clarity before making a decision this week. Thank you.
Thank you. And I suppose this is more about process than anything else. I've got to say as well, I'm with Councillor Kilbay. We've spoke about delegations, and indeed you've admitted yourself, Mayor, that you've been a great champion of buses from the moment you were elected, and that's laudable. We expected 12 months ago that this was the last 12 months, and this combined authority led by yourself would have control over buses and delegation would not be needed. That was the mood music at the time. We've come very little further forward since then, but we're facing a calamity in terms of funding for buses, subsidised buses in North Yorkshire. And I think Carl's touched on the issues. My fear is that we just say, yeah, and I'll come back to the process in a moment. And when we have to serve notice on subsidised routes because we ain't got the money to back it up, it's our fault rather than the combined authorities' fault. We're being put in an incredibly difficult situation if we haven't got the money to back up that delegation. Now, yeah, but clearly we want bus services to continue. Clearly, we will do everything we can, I am sure, to recommend that delegation goes forward, provided we have the numbers and detail behind it. In terms of process, I think we've got to own up to the fact that this combined authority can only ask North Yorkshire Council to carry on with that delegation, given we're 3 days and we've had to hastily arrange an executive meeting. Given that we're 3 or 4 days away from that and it's at the 11th hour, the last thing we would want to do was to turn our back on that delegation, but we're not in a good place. So with that, I think the recommendations, and I don't know how you will feel about this, should reflect that the combined authority can only request a continuation of that delegation, and will reserve our position. So maybe just services in 12.1. Services are requested to be delegated to North York. I understand City of York have already approved. That's the matter for City of York. That's fine. But I think also perhaps we need to add 12.3 in the interests of expediency, that the detail of any agreement reached, and there's got to be flexibility in this, because if those numbers aren't forthcoming, I will have difficulty, I'm sure, convincing colleagues what we're agreeing to. The detail of any agreement reached is delegated, I don't know, to the chief exec in consultation with the mayor, so we can further that and without having to revert back.
Councillor Webb.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and I understand where Councillor Dad is coming from. First of all, City of York Council accepted the delegation unanimously last night, because City of York Council is not about to abandon its bus service, and I trust that North Yorkshire will be in the same position. These papers have been in the public domain now for quite a period of time, so it would have been appropriate if Councillor Dad wanted to change the recommendations to have flagged that earlier than in the actual meeting. And as we are now in the actual meeting, I don't think we can agree to any changes to the recommendations as published.
Well, that's one view, but I don't think I will, quite frankly, take any lessons on lateness of papers, etc., given what we're facing today on another agenda item, and given what I believe the way this combined authority has worked or not worked with partners, and I'll leave it at that. We have the ability to change that recommendation to make sure that we've got the best chance of delivering the delegation with the numbers behind it. And it's not saying we won't, we're just following what I think is a courteous process at the very least by requesting North Yorkshire do it. And if there is any negotiations around figures, numbers, bus routes, all the rest of it, it can be sorted. I can't see that it's a hardship to anybody, but it's recognising that it's a request to North Yorkshire.
So can I just confirm, Councillor, what wording are you proposing for 12.1?
Sorry, 12.1. It is recommended, and I've just sort of done it, that the Mayor's devolved powers relating to the provision of bus services are requested to be delegated to North Yorkshire Council and City of York Council. But I don't think there's a need to include City of York in that, given that they've already agreed it. And then at 12.3, the detail of any agreement reached is delegated. I'm suggesting you might want to change that, not bother which, but you need some sort of, the combined authority needs some delegation so we can deliver this outcome expediently. So I've suggested the Chief Executive in consultation with the Mayor, you might want to change that. But I think we need to be fleet of foot with it.
I'm just curious, Councillor Dad, if the request was denied, what exactly North Yorkshire will be doing with its buses?
That's a matter that we consider at the time if it was denied. But you can no longer just expect North Yorkshire Council to be compliant without knowing the full details. We've got colleagues from North Yorkshire, excuse me, I'm struggling a bit, colleagues from North Yorkshire Council that quite rightly scrutinise every decision we take with the type of money that's involved in this.
I just think you need to be honest with the public, Councillor Dad. Are you seriously saying that on the 1st of April there'll be no buses in North Yorkshire? Is that really what you're saying to the public?
Nobody's said that, Mr. Mayor, at all. What we're saying is we want it open and transparent, and the numbers and figures behind any delegation, so we can go forward with some certainty. I don't think, frankly, it's too much to ask.
Claire, did you?
Yeah, obviously, it's not for me to dictate whether the wording has changed, but we have tried to bring out the point about delegation being subject to acceptance by the local authorities. So we've covered that in the legal element. So I think it's section 7.3, which refers to the function of the combined authority to delegate discharge of the local transport functions, and then said it will be at the discretion of North Yorkshire Council and City of York Council as to whether they accept this delegation. So we have tried to bring that out in the body of the report, and obviously it's the members to determine if they also wish to pick that up in the recommendation.
So because you've made a proposal, we need to propose and second the proposal.
That's right, Mayor. Any amendment requiring proposal in a second.
Yeah. Okay. would, if there is a proposal which, you know, should have been brought to the meeting prior to actually in the meeting, then that needs to be written down, doesn't it? So we know what it is that we're being asked to propose or second or vote on. I mean, this is all just very ad hoc. Let's just change the writing in a recommendation on the hoof, which is not really a very professional way of going about our business.
Yeah, I'm not sure we could make a proposal today. I don't think.
Sorry, I'm a bit lost here. I think it's an ineffectual amendment I've proposed, but clearly Councillor Kilburn doesn't want us to pursue the openness and to the public as well about the numbers behind, as I've explained, and to recognise that in the recommendation that we can only request. Now, I'd like to ask the legal officer if the Constitution states that any amendment must be posted beforehand or not. If it has to be, I'll stand corrected, but you know, it seems a bit ridiculous to me.
Chair, it's up to Dad if he wants to propose it. Councillor Dad, if he wants to propose an amendment. For clarity, we can adjourn the meeting if needed to actually just have it in writing so that it can be considered. If that's an option, we can take that forward.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just a quick conflab there, but just on the amendment. Yes, members are able to make amendments to the recommendations as advised. If it helps, perhaps clarify some potential wording if it's acceptable for members that you can consider. But potentially at 12.1, if this captures the meaning that you wish, is to add at the end rather than include a request at the middle to keep the existing wording, but subject to the constituent council's acceptance at the end, and then perhaps add another recommendation at the end that confirmation of the delegation be delegated to the chief executive officer in consultation with the mayor.
I would accept that word. It captures the spirit of the point I'm making.
In that case, Mayor, if members wanted to propose that, it would still need a second round of voting.
Sure. Okay. So the proposer for the changes is by Councillor Dowd. Second. And also the vote. Vote. Okay. Thank you, Paul. Okay. And so can we just clarify the recommendations? All the recommendations are on page 23 agenda back. So once again. Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Okay. Right, item 8 is Transport Capital Programme 2026-2030. Update, this will be a report by the Director of Transport. Claire, again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. So this report sets out proposals to distribute the Transport Capital Programme settlement between 26-27 and 29-30 financial years. One of the advantages of being a mayoral combined authority is that we receive a consolidated transport settlement from Department of Transport, which is a long-term funding settlement that allows us with our partners to plan and deliver schemes more effectively and over a longer period. Our settlement details were received in December, and we have a 4-year settlement for capital funding of £428.8 million over the next 4 years and £27.4 million of revenue funding over the next 3 years. It's the responsibility of the combined authority to distribute the funding to delivery bodies according to both mayoral priorities, national guidance and local ambition. Funding allocations in the report were included in the financial plan approved at the board meeting in February. This report identifies the board distribution of these allocations to delivery partners. In terms of how we've approached this, we have largely separated the capital element of the settlement into 3 separate pots. The first of these is maintenance, and bringing out some of the public comments earlier, we absolutely appreciate the importance of highway maintenance funding for delivery bodies in terms of our constituent local authorities. So a significant portion of our total funding will be distributed for highway maintenance. There have been 2 changes to the way that we distribute highway maintenance funding over and above DFT funding formula that was introduced previously. The first of these is to change the distributional split of highway maintenance funding between North Yorkshire and York City Council. Previously, the Department for Transport Maintenance Block funding formula used road asset length to determine how the funding should be split between the 2 local authorities. The result of that was that the total funding for the area was broadly split 93% to North Yorkshire and 7% to City of York Council, which reflects the respective length of their road networks. We've proposed to change that slightly to include a higher weighting for vehicle usage. So City of York Council roads carry a higher volume of traffic. The formula is therefore being weighted slightly to reflect that. So the revised split between the 2 local authorities is 90 to 10% to North Yorkshire and City of York respectively. The second change that we've proposed for maintenance funding is to top slice the maintenance allocation to create a new Mayor's Road Maintenance Fund. This will be passported back to local authorities for the first financial year of the programme, 2026-27, on the same split, the 90-10 that has been proposed previously. The purpose of this is to focus maintenance works on large-scale patch repairs on strategic roads across both local authority areas. This is the year 1 proposal and we'll be refining that year 2 onwards. This does change the amount of funding that will be received by both local authorities. So I think it's important to note that in year 1, the amount of maintenance funding will increase from what local authorities had seen previously. It will increase year on year, and it will represent a year on year increase to what either local authority has seen previously. But North Yorkshire Council have raised concerns that this is not in line with what they would have received from the DFT and results in a net reduction overall in their maintenance funding over that 4-year period. In terms of the remainder of the Consolidated Transport Fund, this will be split between highway improvements, a minor works pot and further significant schemes. The minor works pot has been divided between each local authority broadly on the basis of the previous integrated transport block formula and will be used for minor works at the discretion of each local authority or schemes generally valued at under £100,000. The remaining funding has been set aside for what we've called a significant schemes pot, which will be directed towards mayoral priorities. The high-level allocations for these set out in Table 4 of your report, but broadly speaking, will be used to fund schemes on active travel, bus access and punctuality, rail station access improvements, safer roads and traffic management, and integrated corridor and place schemes. Picking up on some of the public comments that we saw earlier, we have included an allocation within the safer roads and traffic management line for the delivery of both fixed and average speed cameras across the North Yorkshire and York areas. This has been highlighted as a priority for us by the Road Safety Partnership, and we've had some detailed discussions with the Deputy Mayor, Police and Crime, and also with officers in the relevant teams. So the intention is for that funding to be delegated to the Road Safety Partnership to determine the location and manage the delivery of those new safety cameras. In terms of next steps, we have to submit a outline delivery plan to the Department for Transport for funding for 26-27 and for the following years. We also need to come back to board in September with a further detailed plan that refines the proposals we put to you here today for delivery over the next 3 years. So essentially what is in for 26-27 needs to be discussed and refined and potentially an agreement made on that today. But there isn't a second opportunity over the coming months to discuss and refine these proposals for the next 3 years for officers to come back to the September board with a firm proposal for funding priorities for 27-28 onwards. In terms of my report, I wanted to bring in, Chair, if possible, Rhiannon Letton-Wade, who is our Active Travel Commissioner, who wishes to add some further information on the active travel elements of it. Otherwise, I'm very happy to take any questions from members.
Thank you, Claire, and I'll bring in Rhiannon afterwards. I've just done a little bit of update from my side of it. Thank you, Claire, and also thank you to yourself and fellow officers. The amount of work that's gone into this and the complexity of it. This has been a very much a live, moving document all the time. We've tried to engage and listen with both local authorities as much as possible. And I really feel that underpins so much of this plan. Clearly, this has been played out in the media quite a lot over the last couple of weeks, and I just want to set a few things straight from my perspective. This is record investment across York and North Yorkshire. It is £456 million over the next 4 years. That is a repeat record investment across the region. That's record investment to fix potholes, to record investment for active travel, record investment for road safety, record investment for school streets, record investment for bus punctuality, record investment for new schemes from both authorities, and record investment to develop even more schemes coming forward. And what that all means in practice really is that's £298 million to fix potholes, 268 million, which is just for North Yorkshire, 29 million for York. That's £85 million more over the next 4 years than the previous 4 years to fix potholes in this region. That is more money than this region has ever seen to fix potholes. That's a multi-year settlement as well, which is always a challenge. So having a multi-year makes it much easier to plan for work going forward. And specifically, that is £74 million more just for North Yorkshire. I repeat, that is £75 million more for North Yorkshire in the next 4 years than the previous 4 years. That will also allow, as I said, for better planning and efficiency, having that long-term settlement. I would hazard a guess that I probably do as many miles across York and North Yorkshire than anyone in this room. I know firsthand the state of the roads right across the region, and that's why setting up this record investment right across the region to fix our roads is so important. It's also £17.5 million for better active travel in the region, because not every road user is in a car or a van, and a lot of them are walking, wheeling and cycling. That's investment to make it safer for our children to get to and from school, for our people to commute to work or for training. It's investment in more crossings, more pavements, more cycle infrastructure. It's investing in people who are constantly put second in certain parts of the region by politicians who are too afraid to take action. It's £30 million to make our roads safer. We know the stats for deaths and serious injuries on our roads are absolutely shocking. Any one of those numbers is a person, it's a family member, and the impact of them, the local community and our frontline responders who have to attend those incidents is traumatising. Being in this position that I hold, I can't carry on in the shameful inaction we have seen for decades that our communities are tired of. It's those communities that I and my Deputy Mayor for Police, Fire and Crime have heard from time and time again who want to see change. Parish councils and local community groups across North Yorkshire, they have been ignored for too long and left to live in towns and villages that people use as a racecourse. I won't ignore residents like Julian, and that's why we're putting money on the table to end North Yorkshire's unattainable and indefensible position as one of the only 3 counties without a single speed camera. And I won't ignore the schools that have been in touch with me. The amazing work that Hazel spoke about earlier on at Oatlands is a testament to the determination of the school, the parents, the carers and the community. So Hazel, I thank you for that work. But it shouldn't have been as difficult for them as it is for many schools to make it safer for children to get to and from school. I wrote to every school in North Yorkshire, and here's some of the points that they had to raise. Services will not introduce measures requested unless an accident has occurred, a mindset that I find dangerous. Roads are, there are many parked cars on the paths outside the school. Roads are too dangerous. Children find it difficult to ride on roads or paths to school. This is something I've been campaigning on for years, and sadly to no avail, one of the schools said. School after school say the same thing. So investment for school streets is at the heart of our funding for road safety. It's greater investment for both councils to improve bus punctuality, invest in highway schemes and record investment for us to design ambitious schemes for the future. And I want to address head on the accusation that I am depriving North Yorkshire Council of £21 million of funding. There are 4 points to raise over this. First, this is neither North Yorkshire Council or City of York Council's money. When both councils agreed to progress with a devolution deal, they agreed to transfer Transport Authority responsibility to the Combined Authority and me as the Mayor. As Mayor, I have a mandate, and the message I put to voters was I would not carry on business as usual. Secondly, through devolution, we have secured increased transport funding and flexibility not available to non-mail transport authorities. Again, I will not carry on with business as usual when we have an opportunity to change how we do things and increase investment. Third, North Yorkshire Council is receiving £75 million more in the next 4 years than the previous 4 years. That's £268 million of funding to fill potholes and fix roads. It's misleading and lazy politics to claim otherwise, especially when we have been trying to, as much as possible, to get as much money we can into the roads and repairing across the patch. And fourth, funding for potholes is one of the aspects of the £450 million fund, which will see record investment in North Yorkshire on a scale that hasn't been experienced ever. It's disappointing that we've chosen to go down this path, and I hope the public will see the plan for what it is. It's record investment to fix our roads and make them safe for everyone who uses them. It's a plan that ends the cycle of ignored communities and mines decline year by year, planning that residents and businesses in this region are tired of. And I welcome this record investment from the government and the opportunity I have as Mayor to make the difference so that many of our residents have been calling for so many years. Before I move to questions and comments, I will invite our Active Travel Commissioner, Rhiannon, to speak on the report as well. Thank you, Rhiannon.
Chair, thank you. I'd like to begin by highlighting a fundamental principle that underpins all transport planning. Every public transport journey begins and ends with a walk, a wheel, or a cycle. Whether someone is accessing a rural bus stop or arriving at York Station, active travel forms the essential first and last stage of that journey. Improving these links is therefore not an optional enhancement. It is central to the performance of our entire transport system. Across the region, the scale of public transport use reinforces this. In North Yorkshire, we estimate 34 to 36 million public transport journeys per year. In York, the figure is around 25 million, including 11.8 million rail passengers, which is due to grow over the next few years, and over 13 million bus users annually. Each of these journeys involves at least one active travel movement. Ensuring these movements are safe, convenient and accessible is essential to supporting mobility, reducing car dependency and improving network efficiency. There is also a clear public health dimension. Across York and North Yorkshire, over 60% of adults are currently living with overweight or obesity, with concerning trends among children. Evidence shows that integrating physical activity into daily routines, particularly through walking and cycling, is one of the most effective ways to improve population health outcomes. Transport infrastructure plays a central role in enabling this. It's important to note that it's not simply professional assessment. Residents across both local authorities consistently tell us they want better walking, wheeling and cycling provision. Consultations, local plan engagement and transport strategy feedback all highlight demand for safer crossings, improved pavements, protected cycle routes and better access to bus stops and stations. There is a clear expectation that we will respond to this. We can also see the scale of ambition among our partners. For the Mayor's Active Travel Fund, we have £2.4 million available, yet we received £3.5 million in applications. This level of oversubscription demonstrates both the readiness of public bodies to deliver schemes and the significant unmet demand for investment in active travel. The economic case is equally as strong. Active travel schemes typically deliver high value for money, with benefits arising from improved health, reduced congestion, increased productivity and lower long-term pressure on health and social care. And in many cases, choosing not to invest results in higher costs over time. However, we must also consider the implications of inaction. Without sustained investment, we risk entrenching car dependency, limiting independent mobility for young people, and reducing access to employment, education and services for those who do not drive. We also risk passing on a transport network that is less resilient, less equitable, and less aligned with future needs. And this brings us to the wider significance of the decisions we make today. The choices we take now will shape the transport system our children inherit. We should reflect carefully on whether we are comfortable with the outcome of choosing not to fund a safer, more integrated and future-ready network, because choosing not to act is still a choice, and it is one that future generations of this combined authority would have to live with long after we have left this room. We are currently seeing record levels of spending on maintenance, which is both welcome and necessary. But the Departments for Transport new consolidated funding model provides an opportunity to go further. It allows us to integrate active travel improvements into maintenance programmes, to design infrastructure that supports long-term modal shift, and to ensure that every pound spent delivers maximum value. This flexibility enables us to move from simply maintaining existing assets to shaping a network that is safer, more efficient, and more aligned with the needs of current and future users. In conclusion, active travel is not a peripheral consideration. It is a critical component of a well-functioning transport system, a key contributor to public health, and an essential part of our environmental and economic strategy. With the new funding flexibility available, we have a significant opportunity to deliver meaningful improvements across York and North Yorkshire. I would encourage the Combined Authority to ensure that our investment decisions reflect this opportunity and the clear demand from our residents and partners. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time, Rhiannon, and for your statement. Any questions or comments?
I think, given the sensitivity and seriousness of this subject, can I suggest that, of course, it's your meeting, I've got some questions of clarification before I comment and we go into debate. Would you be minded to allow those first?
Yeah, sorry.
Is that okay? I'm turning to Claire, because of course Claire is the officer closest to the detail. We've heard it said that it's massive investment into the highways function, transport function within North Yorkshire. That is very true, but it's also true, Claire, as I understand it, that money would have come, as it did historically, in proportion to York and North Yorkshire directly from the DFT, and it's a massive increase in government funding. Is that the case or not? Because if it is, that's to be celebrated, and the government, your party, deserves credit for that. Indeed, it deserves applauding, especially for a 4-year settlement. Is that true?
Yeah, we don't have, if you like, we don't have the allocations of what would have had, what, if you like, North Yorkshire would have received from the DFT if the Combined Authority wasn't in place, it's my understanding. But I think it's fair to say that transport authorities across the country have seen increases in their grant funding. So the fact that it has come to us, the Combined Authority, does give us that opportunity for a more coordinated and strategic approach. And I think more importantly, it's the first step to potentially building on that funding allocation. So if we can prove delivery and we can make a success of this, that gives us a really good footing to then go forward to potentially look at established status and an integrated settlement and more funding from central government to deliver transport improvements across both local authority areas.
Thank you. We've mentioned record investment. Do you want me to carry on?
If you got one.
Yeah, I think it's important that we get the facts out there. We've heard that we will have, in cash terms, massive investment. I think you said it, Mr. Mayor, and Claire's reiterated it, in cash terms, in quantum, if you like, for maintenance, more than we've had previously. And I feel a little bit guilty just landing this on you. But my calculations are, if we applied based on the proposals that are before us, and I'm talking specifically about road maintenance, if we applied a 3% inflation level of the period of the plan, that would be actually a real terms cut. And I suspect inflation for tarmac will be well in excess of 3%, given what's happening internationally. Do you recognise that?
Yes, I think that's probably fair to say, but at the same time, we don't have a responsibility as a combined authority to provide funding allocations that reflect inflation. I think in table 2, which shows previous year's allocations from the DFT direct, they do go up as well as down. So the DFT are not necessarily providing local authorities with figures that reflect inflation. And as you say yourself, inflation is very variable and it's quite hard to forecast that in figures. What I will say as well is that really for the purposes of today, we need to come to a view on the figures for 26-27. They need to be paid to the delivery bodies in order for them to start the works for that next financial year. I think what is up for further discussion is the figures from 27-28 onwards, and that's not to suggest that I think the Mayor isn't due to change the formula, but if there are genuine concerns, particularly if inflation rates do increase significantly, which you may well be right, I think it's probably a valid point there, you know, we may need to go back and relook at the distribution of funding over that preceding 3-year period. So yes, I think it's a good point.
Thank you. Also, sorry. Cameras, speed cameras and the likes. I did read the report clearly, I have, but I can't see any mention within the report of speed cameras. And on that point, I suppose it's a question to the mayor or the chief executive. I have been made aware that a paid officer of this authority has emailed well before publication of papers, and I'm sorry, I turned it off. I will send it separately. I'm not going to name the officer. To a pressure group, to a special interest group, with claims that we are going to fund speed cameras. First of all, I personally find it, and it'd be for the chief executive and the mayor to take a view on that. I find it inappropriate that a paid officer of this authority is performing a function that perhaps should be a political role. But secondly, can you point me to, and I will forward that to you, chief executive, and I hope that we'll get a response and perhaps can be reported back to this authority. I will never name the officer, by the way, that's unfair. Can you point me to the report or the mention of speed cameras and the likes within the report and the funding of them?
So we haven't specifically referenced the words safety cameras in the report, but they are included in the budget that sits behind it. So if you look at table 4 on here in the report, and as I set out when I was discussing the contents, we've divided the remainder of the consolidated funding into a significant schemes pot and allocated that to various mayoral priorities that hopefully reflect local priorities as well. And within that, we have a safer roads and traffic management line, and the intention is that a small element of that will be used to fund the implementation of both fixed and average speed cameras across the combined authority area. The role of the combined authority is not to dictate or inform where they should go, and we would not be involved in any of the revenue side of the cameras. So we would not be involved in the day-to-day maintenance or the operation of those. We would just be funding the installation, and it would be for the Road Safety Partnership to look at an evidence-based approach to where they should go, where they can be most effectively deployed, and how they should be managed in the longer term.
Thank you. That's clear. And I'm pleased to note as well, just as an aside, that we are pursuing policies that are apparently evidence-based. Can you explain why, over the 4-year plan, what's on the table today is front-loaded for the first 2 years? What's the thinking behind that? Because similarly, it's also recognised that if we look at the 4-year plan as a whole, as has already been acknowledged, we are still, in road maintenance terms, a minimum of £20.4 billion worse off in North Yorkshire. So why is that being front-loaded? There must be a reason for it, and I ask that genuinely.
So in terms of the overall consolidated pot, we have split that year by year, largely based on the DFT amounts that we get, so money in equals money out effectively. What we've done within that is changed where that funding is directed towards. So you're right, the maintenance funding is front loaded, significant schemes funding is back loaded. The logic for that really was because generally both local authorities are well set up to deliver maintenance at pace, and also maintenance is scalable. So discussions with officers suggested that actually if we were to give more maintenance money in the first 2 years, that would be deliverable and would make quite a significant impact in terms of helping to meet the backlog. Significant schemes then is backloaded within the programme to allow officers time to work up some of those more complex schemes in terms of doing things like design, feasibility, planning where that's required and so on. So it's to try and give the delivery partners a little bit of a run-in time before those schemes begin delivery in the back end of the programme.
And I'll just come on that one as well. The other reason for front load is we've heard time and time again that this has been one of the worst winters we've had in terms of the state of the road. So front loading that money, so you've got an increase in spending this year. And obviously, as Claire touched on, the inflation, obviously that factor does need to take into consideration, which is why year-on-year increase will help to combat that compared to, say, 2021, when you had a reduction in 2.5 million. And then the following year, 2022, 2023, when there's a further reduction, obviously with increasing going up, that's going to have a much better chance of combating inflation rather than in previous years when the money's gone down.
Just in that vein, then, and I'm trying to help you here, so you can categorically state this is not linked to an electoral cycle.
I've had it time and time again from all members around this table saying it's one of the worst winters we've had for roads and the damage caused to roads. I've had it almost speaking to residents on a daily basis, then it's one of the worst winters we've had for roads, the damage to roads. You wanted more money. We could have equally split it out. We front loaded it so you can get on with delivering road maintenance, which as an authority you'll be able to do. And then as Claire touched on there, backloaded to be able to work time to develop those larger schemes, because we won't have those larger schemes ready to go anytime soon, I should have, or next week.
So it's not linked to an electoral cycle.
It's linked to getting most money quickly out the door to repair the roads after the bad winter that we've all had this evening. You raised with me on the council gate.
So it's not linked to an electoral
No,
cycle.
it's brought forward to get as much money as we can out the door quickly, because you want as much money in the door to fix potholes. I've delivered that for you.
Okay, can I ask as well, Claire, if I may, what criteria will be used in terms of evidence for the deployment of the Mayor's Fund? Because on the face of it, we at North Yorkshire, and I understand certainly at York, it's never been those that shout loudest get most. It's always been evidence-based and decided broadly with the approval of an exec memo. We've got ours in today, based on evidence and highest need first. But on the face of it, it looks as though, to the untrained eye, that the Mayor has a massive pot of money. What's going to be the criteria for the deployment of that? Because it seems to me we may well be politicising what is an operational function in terms of decision making. We're not professionals as politicians and highways engineers, but these guys and you, I think, are.
Almost take that as a compliment. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's a valid question. So clearly this is a relatively new initiative for the Mayor's Road Investment Fund. So for year one, which is 26-27, the proposal is to passport that back to the two local authorities on the same splits that we will do with the remainder of the maintenance funding. And the idea is that we will work with the teams to determine how that is delivered. Now, that is clearly a decision for highway authorities to make. We are not the highway authority in the combined authority, and the local authority officers will know best where improvements are most needed and where that investment can be most effective. That said, the Mayor has reiterated a priority to focus this on strategic routes, potentially on large patch repairs on those routes, which I, in discussions with officers, think forms a fairly core part of their maintenance programme anyway. So we would just like to see where that money has gone and what's been delivered with that, but we're not in a position to dictate which roads it goes on or what type of repair is done, because that is outside of our remit.
So following on from that, what is the point of the Mayor's pot if we're going to defer to the professionals anyway? Sorry, I just don't get it.
Yeah, sorry, there probably should have been a part two to that answer. So that is the funding for 26-27. What we need to do in that 12-month period is work with both local authorities to come up with some criteria for delivery for 27-28 onwards. So again, staying within our lane, if you like, as a transport authority and appreciating the difference between that and a highway authority, we'd also like to come up with a solution where we can direct that funding towards, I guess, some of those more strategic routes and look at the different types of repairs that might be available on those. So, I mean, the Mayor may wish to come in on this with more information, but that's my understanding of how we're going to manage that going forward.
Yeah, essentially, we want to see if we can do things a bit differently. You are still going to be getting the bulk of the money, probably, as already been pointed out there, but I think there's an opportunity to do things particularly looking at larger scale relays rather than singular pothole filling, sorry, and see if that money can be explored in a different way of delivering with roads.
Not offer a comment because we're not into debate, but you know, you've had the opportunity to explain why the Mayor's office has sliced, if you like, parceled off something that's always gone through the eyes and control of professional officers. But it's a passing comment. Can I?
One second.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, but you know, you did give me permission to ask some questions. This is the biggest issue to hit North Yorkshire since the inception of the combined authority. And I'm afraid we ain't rolling over and having our stomach tickled. So I want some questions answering. And I think it's right that an elected member of this authority has that ability. So. Can I ask, we've heard a lot about road safety and that will be a separate debate. Let me make clear, where there is evidence of action that needs to be taken, I will be the first to support it. So I don't want anybody misreading what I'm going to ask now. What is the accident rate in North Yorkshire without, as we've been reminded, any fixed or average speed cameras compared to West Yorkshire? Is there any data to support that those cameras have had a significant impact on road safety?
Joe Cole, would like to come in there, Deputy Mayor?
So I don't have the West Yorkshire data, but 2,000 people have been killed or seriously injured on the roads of North Yorkshire in the last 5 years. And the work that was taken on by Newcastle University looked at both the current provision that we have through mobile safety camera vans, of which we have 11, and they have over 400 fixed cameras. In West Yorkshire, we have none, but that work from Newcastle University was that impartial evaluation of both our current provision and whether or not a network of fixed and average cameras across the region would reduce the number of people being killed and seriously injured on our roads. And that report said that it would. Lancashire's own introduction of fixed and average speed cameras, which I think is probably about 10 years ago now, has had a significant impact on the numbers of people killed and seriously injured on the roads of Lancashire. So that is why these proposals are being put and will be given that investment will be given to the Road Safety Partnership in order that they can take, exactly as you suggested, Councillor Dadd, an evidence-based approach to where most lives and people being killed or seriously injured, where those lives can be saved.
Thank you.
Thank you. And final question, if I may, Mr. Mayor, before we move on. So we're absolutely clear. These proposals, Claire, they've been directed by the Mayor and not DFT, haven't they? For the sake of clarity for members of the public.
So I think the clue there is in the title of the funding, and this is a Mayor's Consolidated Travel Fund, a Transport Fund. So the DFT have devolved this funding to the Mayor to direct towards mayoral priorities and local ambition as well. So it is at the Mayor's discretion how he wishes to direct that funding to best reflect his ambitions and what he wants to achieve with the combined authority.
Just to clarify on that as well, yes, I am the Mayor, this is my plan. When we have devolved powers, we have a Mayor. When it comes to that, I have my own priorities and the own areas that I want to see done differently. Yes, we are putting in record investment into fixing potholes, as well as the myriad of record investment for active travel, record investment for road safety, record investment for school streets, record investment for bus punctuality, record investment for new schemes for both local authorities, and record investment to deliver more schemes and a long-term settlement, so it's easier to plan and deliver on that work. I think this is a good opportunity to get much needed investment into the region and to do not just the status quo, but to improve and make the roads safer for everyone. Any questions or comments? Will be okay from there. Oh, Joe, Deputy Mayor. Yeah.
Thanks. I don't know whether we're moving on to wider comments on the paper. Yeah, great. I just wanted to thank Claire for the paper and for the clarification of the detail. I'm Joe Coles, I'm the Deputy Mayor for Policing, Fire and Crime. I do have quite a lot that I wanted to add to the context of the paper, if that's all right. The Mayor has already been clear about his commitment to reducing the number of people who are killed and seriously injured on our roads, working with the Road Safety Partnership for York and North Yorkshire to do that. The Mayor and I have only been in a position to do that for less than 2 years, and I'm very mindful, bearing in mind the public speakers and other representations that have been made, that there are campaigners across our region who've been banging the drum for a more strategic and active approach to road safety for a much longer period. And I therefore sought some additional clarification from this report about the consultation, about what might be included in the details of this paper, even before the formal consultation began, and also in conjunction with the Police, Fire and Crime panel, because we also needed to ensure that we had investment on a sustainable footing for the Road Safety Partnership. And those conversations began many months ago. But I did want to just take the opportunity of this meeting to pay tribute to the campaigners across the region, in addition to those people who've spoken in the meeting today, because I know that a campaigner from Bentham wrote to you within weeks of your election to share her concerns about road safety over in Bentham. We've heard from other people at the meeting today, but I've met with dozens of others over the course of the last 20 months, including Selby Town Council, Whitley Parish Council, Rickle Roads Action Group, Burstwith Parish Council, Settle Town Council, the Oatlands and Panelash Road Safety and Active Travel Campaign, Ampleforth Parish Council, Baldersby Parish Council, Rowcliffe and Westwick Parish Council, Brereton Parish Council, Warren Road Safety Group, Bellaby Parish Council, Ainderby Steeple Parish, Scottstrop Parish near Malham, Gargrave Parish Council, Gate and Upper Helmsley Parish Council, Wheaton Parish Council, Giggleswick Parish Council, Foxholes and Butterwick Parish Council, Stillingwheat Parish Council, Tadcaster, who we heard from earlier, Shipton by Benningborough Parish Council, the Park Home residents and campaigners from Sheriff Hutton and Strensall, Mid Wharfdale Parish Council, Duffield Parish Council, Holgate councillors in the City of York Council, Poppleton Traffic Group, the Melsonby Parish Council, Relton Parish Council, Harrogate Town Council, Ripon City Council, Whitney Village campaigners and Pateley Bridge, and the executive and cabinet members from both local authorities. And I'm delighted that the executive member for North Yorkshire is here. There were representations made about all levels of road safety in our region. Some people wanted safer streets around schools, crossings or road engineering changes. Some people wanted better signs, some wanted speed changes, and some wanted speed enforcement. The investment in road safety that the Mayor is making today isn't about one change, it is about a change in approach. It is about shifting our focus to do as much as we possibly can to keep people safe on our roads. Will we get to 0 deaths on our roads from where we are at the moment? That is going to be difficult, but the Mayor and I are both very clear that one loss of life or someone seriously injured on our road is one person too many. And the early indicators from the community survey, which is live at the moment for responses, has had over 1,000 people replying about the performance of our emergency services, and 80% of the people responding to that survey support the commitment to reducing the number of people being killed or seriously injured on our roads. As I said earlier, I want to thank Newcastle University for the reports that they have done to assess our existing road safety infrastructure and whether or not a network of fixed and average cameras would have an impact on the number of people killed or seriously injured. It would. What this means from a road safety perspective it is that there is some change on the way. The York and North Yorkshire Road Safety Partnership do a brilliant job, but they didn't have sustainable funding and they've had no capital investment to invest in the strategic changes that we need to see in our region. That is changing today. Road safety progress has stagnated in our region over the last decade, and we are determined to do our part to deliver the National Road Safety Strategy, which is committed to achieving a 65% reduction in the number of people killed or seriously injured over the next 10 years. In our region, if we look at the 2022 to 24 baseline, that will mean a reduction and a saving of 166 lives over the next 10 years. We are determined to play our part to reduce the risk to all road users in our region, particularly the most vulnerable ones. There will be some enforcement and capital investment in fixed and average speed cameras. There will also be engineering support in the wider transport settlement delivered through the Road Safety Partnership. All of these things have a part to play. I just wanted to assure members of the Combined Authority that any details about the decisions of where fixed or average cameras should be placed is operational and would be a matter for the Road Safety Partnership. Both local authorities sit on that partnership with their highway responsibilities alongside national highways, and those discussions as a result of the decision today could potentially now get underway. I sincerely hope wherever fixed and average speed cameras go in our region and the parishes, that the parishes and campaigners of the region who have campaigned so hard for this are involved in that process, not least because of the passion that they have shown for keeping people in their communities safe. These cameras are for them. They are to keep them and their families safe and to reduce the horrific impact of serious road collisions on our emergency services. I am pleased to be part of a combined authority with a mayor who is focused on delivering for the people of the region and means what he says when he says that he wants to keep people in our region safe. I hope that members of the combined authority will put politics aside today, listen to the people who have spoken in the meeting and who have campaigned on this for far too long. This is a positive change for our region, and I hope that members will support the paper.
You, Deputy Mayor. Time. Okay, can we move to a proposer and seconder for the recommendation on page? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, is there not other people wanting to speak?
If you'd like to.
Well, I mean, I'm happy to, but I mean, the first thing I want to do, David, is thank the Prime Minister for recognising the problem and giving us more money for road repairs. I mean, I've heard the Prime Minister's questions twice now where this has been raised. I have to say, I think we have handled this very badly, and that's a collective. We have handled this very badly. This is no criticism of Claire's role. She's working to your aspirations, Mr. Mayor, many of which I agree with in part or in whole. But I do think that we risk ignoring our priorities. I'm talking about North Yorkshire's priorities in this. The evidence, I believe, is there that business as usual for North Yorkshire is actually quite important. We can't ignore the length of our roads. We can't ignore the impact of winter weather. It's not just about potholes. There are deeper repairs to be done now following 2 years. We can't ignore oil inflation. Now we're probably unable to do more. We're likely to be having to do less. And I feel quite frustrated that we're having this sort of conversation where we could have had a more detailed conversation ahead of this this discussion today. I think that's all I want to say.
Yeah, Taylor's points on it. As you've said there, you touched on yourself the adverse weather and the state of the road, which is why front loading it so we've got more to deliver after a very poor winter, and obviously having that increase year on year and that record investment over the next 4 years will obviously hope to alleviate those stresses. And at the same time, as well as we touched on, is also being able to invest in the safety of the roads, which for me is a huge priority. And yes, maintaining our roads is incredibly important. And again, coming back into the record investment, but then got an opportunity to do other things as well. And I think seeing a year-on-year increase in funding, which neither local authority has seen for a very long period of time, gives us that stable footing and to be able to hopefully combat some of those inflationary pressures as well. Would you like to come in there, Councillor Douglas? Yes,
So I obviously don't want to go over ground that's already been covered. The first thing I'd like to do is start with the positive, really, and thank Claire and the team for taking account of some of our concerns and amending the report. So thanks for that, and look forward to better dialogue, I think, going forward, because this hasn't been great. The concept of the mayoral maintenance fund was something that's been recently introduced, really. I think, like Councillor Dada, I still struggle with the rationale behind that, where effectively
money is taken with one hand and given back with the other. The main consequence of that seems to be, again, a further change in the balance between funding between York and North Yorkshire, because that 4 million increase effectively is 7 if you take account that 90-10 split. Just also got some concerns around what will happen after 26-27, because the 20.5 million difference is based on that 90-10 split continuing to be 90-10. I think Clave already made reference that that will be considered going forward. So that could further effectively increase the gap between what a supported DFT allocation would have been versus what's proposed here under this allocation. So just wanted to really make that point. Thank you.
Thank you. Just come in there. Councillor Douglas.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'd like to say I'm not sure that I think it's appropriate that officers make essentially what are verging on political statements in an open meeting when they have opportunity to talk about this in a private forum, which is the way that business between officers is generally carried out. But I would like to thank you personally. I think this is the power of devolution for a start, that this transport fund has come down from DFT through to the Mayoral Combined Authority and under your control. And of course, it is within the political right of the elected member, the mayor, to decide what the priorities of that transport fund are. And I think that York cannot say anything other than thank you, because it is really refreshing to us to get some recognition of the fact that York has the higher proportion of the driven miles compared to North Yorkshire. And to this point, we have received 7%, only 7%, and North Yorkshire 93% of the funding available for maintenance. We actually have 13% of the driven miles and 25% of the population. So to actually come down to the fact that York will spend just £1 for every 9 that North Yorkshire does on road maintenance is a very positive move for us. So I would like to thank you for that. We look forward to investing in road safety in a way that we haven't been able to do previously. And it's only through your funds that we are able to do it. And I do find it very disappointing that we get the impression that there isn't the drive to invest in road safety across our region. As it's been pointed out, is hugely important. So thank you for the benefits that this will bring to our city. It is much needed. We still have a huge task ahead of us. We need £100 million in order to put our roads right. We understand that that is going to be close to impossible, but this additional 1.6 million, that is all it is in 1 year, will help us to do more than we can do at this point. And that is very important for all of us. People from North Yorkshire travelling to York, our boundaries do not end. Our residents do not see that we are a different region. So thank you for that.
Councillor Douglas. Just come in there. Councillor Bank.
Thank you, Mayor. Just in terms of the questions bordering on comments that Councillor Dadd was asking, I can put your mind at rest, Councillor Dadd. We do what's right for the region, not for political party, and none of this is about electioneering. All of this is doing what is right for the region. I think it's an interesting question that you brought to the meeting's attention about whether or not an officer had behaved in an appropriate way politically. And then we have officers from North Yorkshire starting to contribute politically to this open meeting. And also we saw comms going out earlier this week that were essentially North Yorkshire comms, essentially putting out the North Yorkshire Conservative Party's line in comms, which is supposed to be neutral. So if we're asking questions of the Combined Authority, then I think we'll also ask questions of North Yorkshire as to how they are using their comms for what are essentially political purposes, which is wholly inappropriate
and something we'd come down on like a ton of bricks if it was happening in York. Just to be absolutely clear, the reason that we are looking for £1 in every 10 that's spent maintaining the highways to be spent in York, and North Yorkshire will still be getting the £9 in every 10 being spent in North Yorkshire, is because maintaining roads in York to the same standard as they are in North Yorkshire, and they are about equivalent, the condition of roads in North Yorkshire and York, maintaining roads in York costs us £13,000 per kilometre, and maintaining roads in North Yorkshire costs around £9,000 per kilometre. So the roads in York take 44% more to maintain in cost. And the reason for that is that we have 9.5 million visitors a year on top of all the people who live there, and they're all very welcome. And we want more to come, and we want to make sure that the roads that they're using and the added wear and tear that that brings is taken care of. It won't be enough. At the moment, York taxpayers already top up our budgets to the same amounts as we get from DFT, so we're already doubling it from council taxpayers. York council taxpayers will continue to do that, but we might start to get on top of our roads. We inherited, when we came into administration in York, a £130 million backlog of road maintenance. We've managed to get that down so far through our efficiencies and our programme to 100 million. This will help us keep on going. I was also somewhat astonished to hear from Councillor Dadd that this is the most difficult thing that the North Yorkshire has faced since the arrival of the combined authority. I think, to paraphrase, it might be the most difficult thing that the Conservative Party in North Yorkshire has faced since the arrival of the combined authority, because it is a bizarre way to talk about a 50% uplift in the budget for road maintenance in the region, which is what we are having. So just so that everybody is absolutely clear, under the last 5 years of the Conservative government, the region received £256 million for highways. Under the 5 years of this plan, it will be £360 million. So we know our roads are in a terrible state. We know austerity has destroyed them. So Conservative Liberal austerity destroyed our roads. We are now setting about fixing them with that additional 105 million extra over that period. I find it bizarre that this is being resisted and spun as somehow being the worst thing that's ever happened to North Yorkshire. In terms of the so-called top slicing, as it keeps on getting referred to, i.e. the Mayor saying that he's going to allocate funds to road safety and to combat speeding and to make safe routes to school. It's not that long ago since we had a mayoral election, and this mayor went to the people of York and North Yorkshire and he said, if you elect me as mayor, I will make your schools safer, I will make your towns and villages safer on the roads. He won that election. This so-called top slice, it is actually the mayor delivering on the promise that he made to the people of York and North Yorkshire when he went out to election. And we have heard it here today, from Coxwold to Cowling, from Tadcaster to Thresfield, and all the way up to Whitby, and a whole list that Councillor Coles delivered. People are crying out, the Deputy Mayor for Police, Fire and Crime delivered, people are crying out to make their towns and villages safer. And the reason why the Mayor has put that into a specific fund is they have been crying out for that for decades, and nobody in North Yorkshire was listening. So we need to allocate the money to those funds to make sure it happens, to make sure it gets spent, so that it gets delivered in those communities that want to keep their kids safe, that want to keep their people safe. That's why it's happening. That is the power of the Mayor. So we have a Labour mayor under a Labour government fixing the roads, making our towns and villages safer, reducing speeds on the road, and apparently this is the worst thing that's ever happened to North Yorkshire. So I am fully behind what the mayor's doing. I too am proud to be part of a combined authority that is delivering to the people of the region on the promises that were made during that mayoral campaign. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kilbane. I think we're going round the house now. I think we know probably where everyone sits on this. Is it a question or a statement? Yeah, and I think we've had quite a long debate now. We've had nearly 40 minutes.
With all due respect, we've heard a forceful contribution. I'm being very diplomatic about this. from Councillor Kilbane, I would like the opportunity to respond. I've been named 2 or 3 times. I think out of courtesy should be allowed that opportunity to give my views in public after I've heard the debate.
You've had the opportunity to air your views at the start. Now we've gone back. I think we know where.
No, Mr. Mayor, I didn't. I made it quite clear. I expressly stated and sought your permission to ask a range of questions and said we'll be coming back to the debate. And that's what you agreed we were doing. Now,
but you were making questions, you were making statements and questions.
I was asking questions.
And then we've gone around the house. I think we know where everyone is on this. I don't think anything's going to be changing. And as chair, we'll be going to a proposal in a second.
In that case, Mr. Mayor, can I move an amendment, please?
We're not having amendments to.
You're not allowing amendments either.
No.
Okay, thank you. You've made your position very clear. You've owned this, Mr. Mayor, and you've also tried to gag a senior member of this combined authority at the same time as we've heard from Councillor Coles. I know she's elected to York, but she's appointed. She's never been on a ballot paper for this authority. And it seems to me that the voice of North Yorkshire, 75% of your electorate, is not being allowed to be heard today. I think it's utterly disgraceful. To be a leader of an authority, you need people.
And on that, Councillor Dad, you've had ample opportunity to raise statements and comments, and as Councillor Les has as well. We've heard from both sides of the meeting. I've put and it is my plan. My plan is to give record investment to York and North Yorkshire, the more money that you've ever had. If you don't agree with that plan, that is your prerogative. I agree with a plan that gives more money to both authorities to do what you want to do. Okay, so we'll move to, I'll propose this, so we'll move to a seconder.
Seconded.
And all those in favour? All those against? Abstained. If you so wish, yeah. Okay, I propose once again that we just have 5-minute break just to have water, tea, coffee and everything else. Thank you very much. thank you for coming back in 5 minutes. So agenda item 9, the pay policy statement, report by the Director of People and Transformation. Sarah, over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, this is just a report outlining the proposed pay policy statement for next year. It's a requirement of the Localism Act, and it's a requirement that we have to update every year. The policy statement can be found at Appendix 1, and the recommendation is that you agree the proposed statement so that we can show on the website.
Do members have any comments or questions they'd like to make on this? CK proposer. Oh, sorry. Recommendations on page 38. Sorry, a proposer for this.
Oh. Proposed.
Seconder. Yeah, and all those in favour? Thank you very much. Item 10 is the local growth funding report by the Director of Economy, Andy. Thank you, Andy.
Yeah, thank you. So the purpose of this report is to set out the proposed approach to administering a £40 million devolved local growth funding settlement that is being allocated to the combined authority to deliver the ambitions of our local growth plan. So this was announced in the budget in November. It's a really welcome, significant piece of investment into driving economic growth in the region. The fund is for 4 years. It's designed to boost regional productivity, and it's focusing on 3 interconnected themes in which we can spend that funding. The first is infrastructure investment, which is aligned to expanding labour market reach, enabling agglomeration benefits and allowing functional economic areas to be connected. Business support, so strengthening regional clusters of our business support and investment to ensure that we have firm level competitiveness and sectoral growth across our key growth sectors, which are outlined in the local growth fund, local growth plan, and for skills development. So they're the 3 key strands on which this funding can be spent. So just as a reminder, the combined authority approved the local growth plan last summer, which has been agreed with government. That local growth plan sets the long-term vision of how we want to drive inclusive economic growth across the region and establishes our high growth opportunity employment sectors. At that time, it was also approved for officers to work with both local authorities and regional partners and stakeholders to develop a 3-year local growth delivery plan. So the local growth plan sets our 10-year ambition for the region. We commissioned at that point in time last summer to work up a delivery plan, which has been brought back to the combined authority in the summer. That's proved a prescient decision because it provides a really clear framework to guide how we can now use our local growth funding to make sure that we really drive tangible change in the region. So just as an overview of the local growth fund, it's £40 million spread over 4 years for the region. £18 million of that funding is for revenue and £22 million for capital during that period. So this report firstly seeks to accept the funding from government, and then it establishes some high-level principles as to how it will be spent. Funding is conditional on us agreeing with government an outcomes framework. This is a very tried and tested approach with government in devolving funding, that we agree an outcomes framework as to how that will be spent. The draft of that has been submitted to government and is attached to this report. And what we're seeking is delegation to be able to submit the final version to meet the deadline next week. Government have fed back, and we're just making some minor amendments, but they were very happy with what had been submitted, and that's gone through a full logic model theory of change approach to make sure it's evidence-based in the outcomes that we're seeking to achieve from the funding. So having received the funding, this report sets out a high-level approach as to how we're looking to apply it within that outcomes framework. And the approach to that is firstly to use the revenue funding to drive, to enable combined authority capacity to deliver the themes that are set out within the local growth fund across the 4 years. It's also seeking to provide 3 years of capacity funding to local authorities for their current business support activity. But that is very much while we all work and collaborate together to ensure that we've got a fully integrated regional model for business support moving forwards. And then the remaining funding, which is left for revenue and capital, will be aligned to the local growth delivery plan, which we are bringing back to the combined authority in the summer. And the recommendations are in the report and set out in section 2, that they basically just enshrine what I've just set out as the principles.
Thank you, Andy. obviously to yourself and the team of both local authority as well. And obviously, once again, being able to accept £40 million from government is always a good thing to be able to do. And obviously, working with our two local authority partners as well to be able to fund them and support them with the local growth fund as well is a great opportunity to shore up their service as well. And more importantly, fundamentally investing in growth businesses and the people of York and North Yorkshire. So thank you for your work you've done on that. I know it's been a lot of work so far and we'll continue. Any, would you have to come in there?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted to outline that, of course, this is a hugely beneficial investment in our region. It's really important that we're able to move forward with the implementation of the growth plan, and this funding allows us to do that. So it's a welcome push of money from central government, from the Labour government out to the devolved regions and into York and North Yorkshire. And again, that's the absolute prize of having an elected mayor in place who can decide upon our priorities, working in collaboration, which you absolutely do with both I believe York and North Yorkshire, and I look forward to see the fruition of this funding coming through and the growth in our economies that we hope to see over the coming years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Douglas. Any more comments or questions? Are we okay? Okay. The recommendations are on page 52 of the agenda pack to seek a proposer and seconder. And all those in favour? Thank you, Andy. Item 11 is the skills, employment and education update, which will be presented by Lee. Thank you, Lee.
Yeah, so this report provides an update on the employment skills programmes being delivered by the Combined Authority. It proposes an approach for allocating the Adult Skills Fund, free courses for jobs and skills bootcamps for the next academic year. It requests a delegation to implement and deliver devolved adult skills programmes, and it seeks approval to delegate authority for the acceptance and deployment of funding for new skills programmes. So over the past year, we've significantly expanded the scale and impact of our programmes. We're making positive progress towards creating a real-rounded work health and skills system. Based on current programmes, by 2028, our investments will have provided tailored employment support to more than 6,000 adults. We've created over 35,000 adult learning enrolments on the skills courses. It will have supported over 400 businesses to train their workforce, and it will have provided more than 200,000 careers advice touch points for young people. Those numbers continue to grow. So the report provides details of the emerging construction skills capital funding, which is being devolved mayoral combined authorities. This presents a fantastic opportunity for the region to create additional capacity to train more people in construction skills in line with our house building targets and infrastructure ambitions. The proposed approach to invest in this funding will be co-designed to ensure that it meets the needs of the region. Skills bootcamps are also being devolved to mayoral combined authorities from next academic year onwards. And that presents an opportunity to create longer term strategic approach to investments compared to previous years when we've had to bid for that funding on a year by year basis. So devolution is enabling us to move from a fragmented system to a more collaborative one where providers are really working together around shared priorities, design and provision that genuinely meets the needs of our communities, employers and the labour market. So most of the skills and employment programmes are relatively new or have literally just launched, but over time as we gather further delivery data, we'll be able to make even more informed decisions about where the money should be invested to ensure it's reaching those that need it most. So the new work and skills interchange is going to provide a coordinated point of access for individuals, employers and providers to receive the support that they need to navigate the world of work, health and skills, really providing that joint and coherence that the system requires. And also the Careers Hub collaboration portal that was launched in November is making it simpler for employers, schools and colleges to engage with each other to offer valuable opportunities for young people. And then looking ahead to the 2026-27 academic year, so we're proposing an approach to commission the Adult Skills Fund, free courses for jobs and skills bootcamps that is strategic, targeted and aligned with the local growth plan priorities. And then the investment will be underpinned by the Commission approach that's already been set out and approved in the North Yorkshire Strategic Skills Plan. Absolutely, the provision will be focused on outcomes and progression. And the recommendations are set out.
Thank you very much, Lee. And it's another day of record with record investment into jobs, education, training opportunities in the region. With was been able to make decisions on nearly over £80 million spent going into this area over these first 4 years is incredible. And obviously prioritising the people, the businesses across the area to grow and give the skills, the workforce and opportunities to our businesses. So a great area that we're really sort of heavily involved in. Obviously, there's a lot going on in skills. I think it has to be said in a minute as well, Lee. So thank you very much for all your work you're doing on that as well. Any comments or questions for anyone on this? No. Okay. The recommendations are on page 93 and 94. Seek a proposer and a seconder.
Seconded.
All those in favour? All those in favour? Favour or yep. Thank you. We've just launched an £80 million skill for the Okay, item 12, the Tour of Britain stage host. This will be a report from the Director of Economy. Andy, thank you, Andy.
Yeah, thank you. A joint report, this one with Claire as well as Director of Transport. So it transcends our two worlds. So this is to explore an opportunity for the combined authority to enter into an agreement with British Cycling to host a stage of the 2026 and 2027 Tour of Britain race. So we were approached by British Cycling to become a stage host of the next 2 years cycle race, which is a World Tour Elite level race. And just some figures that show the impact that it could have for the region. In 2025, we're broadcast in 100 countries to 1.7 million people, and it had a £62 million evidenced economic impact across the country. The stage impact could range between £2 million and £12 million was the average impact on each stage host. So British Cycling developed a partnership model approach for the race. It was previously run by a commercial operator. They brought that in-house, and they work with combined authorities and local authorities to pay a fixed price to become a stage host for the race. So the report sets out our hosting the race would have a clear alignment with a number of our regional strategies and ambitions. It will result in direct economic spending to the region. It'll help to promote the active travel agenda and will act as a showcase for the region, helping us to drive inward investment and place promotion activities. The report proposes that we enter into a 2-year option with British Cycling at a cost of 350k. There is an added benefit of being a host in 2027 in that the Tour de France takes place in Britain or stage with Tour de France next year. And in 2014, when York and North Yorkshire hosted the Tour de France, there was a huge uplifted interest in that next year's Tour of Britain. So next year would have that added bonus if we're a host for that year as well. It's proposed that we host the men's race in September. The women's race takes place in August. As a tourist region, we're very saturated with visitors at that time of year. So the September timescale fits better, and that's where the British Cycling like to bring. The route proposed to be North Yorkshire. That's been proposed by British Cycling because of the geography of the region. They very much want to benefit from our very, very hilly terrain, which will help with hosting an interesting stage route across the region. Number of costs on road closures, permits, traffic management, which the local authority, so North Yorkshire Council would manage, but to make sure that those costs are offset, we propose that cost is split between North Yorkshire Council and the combined authority 50-50, and we've sought within the recommendations to cap our exposure to that. Key to getting that exposure down is to work really, really hard with the operators to make sure that the route not only showcases a region, but is as economical to run as possible. And we're very confident that the figures set out in the cap are the very, very top end and we won't be exceeding them. So to achieve that, it is delegated to the Director of Transport in consultation with the Mayor, an agreement with British Cycling and North Yorkshire Council, which would agree the actual route that it takes. So the recommendations are set out in the report, but just to summarise the proposal is that we partner with British Cycling Events for a stage of 26 and 27 Tour of Britain, a cost of 350k, and that we share the costs associated with the North Yorkshire Council on a 50-50 basis on each of those 2 years as well, with the route delegated to the Director of Transport in consultation with their agreement with North Yorkshire Council, which is cycle.
Thank you. And I think many people have positive memories of the Tour de France going through the region. 2014, I remember being in Harrogate and seeing the stage go up Parliament Street, and it was absolutely brilliant to see. Obviously, great to be in line to host this, and the as you said, the impact in the visitor economy as well over that period should be brilliant. And obviously, there's really making sure that we're with Tour de Britain and Brianna, Active Travel Commissioner, and others to make sure we have that a real legacy after it as well. It's not just a day event, it's how we can make the most of it going forward as well. Any comments or questions about to raise this? Was that to come there? Councillor Leslie? Andy, just turn yours.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm happy to support this in principle. I mean, North Yorkshire has been hosting cycle races ever since that grand depart that we had, and people still talking about the way that the public took to the Tour de France coming to Britain. Happy to support it. Inevitably, we do need to have good discussions about the route, because it's got to be right for the cyclists, but it's also got to be right for the community that's hosting it. So with that being part of the recommendation, I'm happy to support.
Thank you. I say that final delegation there to agree with the foundation with cycling events at North Yorkshire Council. Obviously, your experience of doing that will be incredibly imperative to this. Obviously, for them seeing what British cycling want from us, well, obviously that's opportunity to look at the costs of Oxley as well. I'll just first Councillor Gilbert and then Councillor Dawson.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. And I think it's also worth pointing out, Andy, that in York we saw a massive uptake in cycling itself. Following the grand depart in York, in many ways, I'm jealous of my North Yorkshire colleagues who are getting to have the race all to themselves, because the grand depart from York saw a huge increase in the number of cyclists. And I think there is an opportunity, Mayor, with if the Tour does come to North Yorkshire, especially with the active travel funding pots that have been agreed today, to really build on the profile that it brings to get more people cycling in the region, and it will give us a real opportunity to do that, as well as all of the economic benefits and the joy that it will bring. So yeah, very much in support of this.
Yeah, thank you for allowing me to speak, Mr. Mayor. I'm not against this at all. In fact, I'm personally supportive, but just one question. Again, maybe the challenge from members, colleagues on North Yorkshire Council, given what we've seen today with the sorry to mention it, but a real terms cut in highways funding. People are not best chuffed with this combined authority, let's be clear. So they'll be more inclined to look at the detail of any proposal that's coming forward, as will I. There's no mention of the route going through the city of York, and that may well be the case. And I suspect it won't go through the boundary of the city of York. City of York may not want it. But if it was to, what mechanism, if it was to, what mechanism is there for York to contribute a proportionate amount to those costs as well? Would that mean another report back to this authority? I'm happy to take an assurance over that. And then I'll come on to decision making at North Yorkshire Council shortly.
Yeah, I would imagine if the route did go through York, which it's only going through North Yorkshire, but if it would do to York, then that would change the report, and then we would have to bring that back, because it would implement York as well. But as we've discussed, it's always been in the North Yorkshire Council.
It's always been expected to be in the North Yorkshire Council area, but until the route's agreed. And in terms of governance, this will be coming to North Yorkshire Council. I mean, we're on the hook, or could be on the hook, for 200,000 quid. Well, frankly, that is not an insubstantial amount of money. So it will have to go through our governance process. I'm looking, if you would allow our legal officer from North Yorkshire to explain how we intend to deal with that, because again, I'm not in the business of quick decisions, rushed decisions. I'm pleased to say, as well, as an aside, that on this occasion, on this issue, I'm informed that there was early engagement. unlike the previous agenda item.
Yeah.
Through you, Mayor. So under the North Yorkshire Council's constitution, we have certain delegated decisions, but generally they're delegated from the executive. So if it's something that's controversial, we'll take it to the executive, and we have one due in April, I believe it's the 21st.
Thank you, Barry, for that. Okay, so recommendations on page 117. Seek a proposer.
Happy to propose, Mayor.
And second. And all those in favour? Item 13 is the consideration of York and North Yorkshire strategy for sustainable future consultation plan. I'll invite Andrew to present on this report. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you. I'm stuck right over here. And unlucky for some, I'm item 13. The purposes of a report really is to set out the draft strategy for a sustainable future in order for it to go out for a more formal consultation process. This follows a previous approval at the 28th of November, which set out a framework, which was the key priorities and objectives for the strategy. Just a bit of background, that the combined authority with its partners have already started to deliver around £17 million worth of funding to support this agenda. And this strategy starts to build on much of that work and the previous route map to carbon negative that was done within the local enterprise partnership. The strategy has been developed and prepared through extensive stakeholder engagement, evidence gathering and a series of analysis, and it's been coordinated through a task and finish group which has been chaired by members from both authorities and a range of partners. This engagement has included National Parks, Northern Power Grid, Northern Gas Network and our friends at Yorkshire Water. The strategy itself has a series of key goals, 3 key goals, but one around economic transformation, critically important that this agenda looks at the benefits for creating new jobs, business growth, and much more competitive and effective businesses, very much linked to the local growth plan priorities. Secondly, healthy and thriving communities so that this is affordable. It looks at few poverty issues, warmer and more comfortable homes and supporting health and active travel, so linking to other agendas that have been discussed today on other occasions. And then finally, the ambition for becoming England's first carbon negative region is still within this plan, even though the overall title of the plan has changed, but very much the ambition to reach carbon negative by 2040, which would deliver a 90% reduction in emissions, but also look at us being and continuing our work as a world-class innovator with our assets around bioeconomy and bioengineering, having pioneering businesses in this sector, but also building on the high quality natural capital of our geography. This will be delivered through a series of strategic pillars, in particularly securing energy independence, moving towards circular economy and enhancing our environment. And this is developed through a series of sector plans which are set out in the consultation draft around clean and affordable and reliable power, warm and comfortable buildings, accessible and convenient transport, innovative, sustainable businesses, resilient landscape, sustainable food and farming, healthy marine and coastal environments, and empowered community action. As I say, these have been developed with key stakeholders to create and co-create sector plans, and these will all form part of a consultation draft as it goes out. So the next step will be to go, if on agreement of today, we would go out with an 8-week consultation process, and then following that review and responses, we'd look to bring this back probably at the CA meeting in October time for formal approval of the actual strategy itself. The recommendations that are set out basically are to approve the draft that's attached, go out for the consultation, and then bring this report back
in October or winter, as it says in the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. And obviously, vital work, obviously, as always, but no important in the current climate, the situation we're seeing in Iran, particularly the volatility and vulnerability of relying on fossil fuels. So supporting a transition to clean, green energy will support Britain's energy independence and reduce transport and energy costs for residents and businesses alike. So no more time than ever is this more important that we crack on. Do members have any comments or questions?
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'd like to thank the Task and Finish group who's worked on this, and I know Councillor Kent found it really invaluable to work across the region and speaking to other organisations as well, and particularly with her North Yorkshire counterpart on that. So I have great confidence that the strategy reflects what the collective were thinking. And I think that's really important on this, given that movement towards net zero and decarbonisation needs to be done in a fair and measured way to make sure that everybody benefits from it most appropriately. So I'm really happy to support this and glad to see the region moving forward on this important issue.
Thank you. Councillor Douglas, any comments or let's go there?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Andrew, for all the work and for the authors of the report as well, and echo what Councillor Douglas is saying in terms of the really valuable input into this. I just wanted to make the comment, Mayor, that I attended the Techland conference in Munster a couple of weeks ago on behalf of both Combined Authority and also covered some City of York duties with our twin city while I was over there. And we attended the sessions that were being run on circular economy, in particular cross-border collaboration between the Netherlands and Westphalia in this area. We made a number of very useful contacts that we'll be passing on. We're currently producing a report on it. And they were also keen to work with us across the north of England and what they're doing. But the simple message from the businesses there was that this is the only future for us. You know, if we are going to continue creating wealth, if we're going to continue creating jobs, if we're going to continue building, we're going to continue maintaining roads, etc., then the only future is through circular, because the resources that we have are running out and we have to stop using our fossil fuels. And of course, much of what we use on a day-to-day basis is actually a byproduct of the petrol industry and the oil industry. And if that's going to stop, then what are we going to manufacture goods out of into the future? And it was a very sobering but also very interesting event. And I think what became really apparent to me while I was there is that everything that's in this paper, all of the things that we are trying to achieve, North Yorkshire is perfectly positioned to reach that circular economy where nothing is wasted. They also talked about instead of independence for energy, they talked about energy sovereignty. And of course, the war was raging, as it still is, in the Middle East while we were over there. So what they were sensible German businesses and Dutch businesses, as you can imagine, but what they saw circular economy as being was taking control of your own future. And we are perfectly positioned in this region to be absolutely at the front of this in the UK, and made a number of useful contacts that will be putting in touch with us. So very, very good to see this paper coming forward. It is the future for all of our residents.
Thank you. Councillor Kilbane, any comments on councillors?
Just a question. I've missed at least one business board meeting, so this may have been discussed at that time, but my understanding was that this paper, ahead of the consultation, was actually going to go back to the business board for further discussion, and I don't see it mentioned in the narrative in this paper. So has it been back to the business board or not?
Andy, was that to come in there?
Yeah, so just on that, we took it to the business board in October last year, to get feedback on it. We have pivoted it quite a lot. There's been quite a number of changes. I've just had a conversation actually in the recess with the business board member. So our intention is to approve a consultation draft, and we'll be taking that to the business board for a formal session. We'll either do it within a normal business board or put on a special session with business board members to get their feedback, and that will be then fed and captured into what we bring back to the combined authority later this year.
To take it back to the business board ahead of drafting the paper.
No, they're not been. That was our engagement with the business board to get their feedback on it, of which we made a number of changes on. We knew we would be going back out to consultation then, so we're seeking the combined authority to approve what's there today so that we can seek stakeholder feedback and amend accordingly.
Okay, recommendations can be found on page 127. Seek a proposer and a seconder for this. Yeah.
Seconded.
And all those in favour? Yeah. Thank you, Andrew. Item 14, reporting of urgent decision. This will be over to Paul.
Thank you, Mayor. Something of a housekeeping report, just to report back on any urgent decisions that have been taken since the last meeting of the combined authority. We've had one decision taken in that time that was made by the head of paid service in consultation with the mayor, and that relates to acceptance of additional skills funding. Unfortunately, due to government deadlines, we weren't able to bring that through one of these formal sessions. So that was taken under urgency measures, consultation with the chair of Overview and Scrutiny Committee, and is reported back here today.
Thank you, Paul, for that. Any comments or questions beyond that? Recommendations can be found on page 323. A proposer and seconder for this.
Proposed.
All those in favour? Item 15 is the forward plan. Again, over to Paul. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks again, Mayor. Yes, the copy of the forward plan that you have in the papers is the current published version that's available on the website. Just to update you verbally on a couple of additions that are coming to the next round of meetings. In addition to what's published, there will be a report on the Brownfield Housing Fund on the 1st of May. And then on the 5th of June meeting, there'll be reports on the City Leap programme, the local growth plan, delivery plan, and a report potentially on community wealth building. But all of these will be included in the next published version.
Thank you. For the forward plan can be found on page 325, and members happy just to note the forward plan at the point of the action. And finally, that's it. Sorry, item 16. Any urgent business? If there's no urgent business, then thank you everyone. Thank all the speakers who took part today. The next scheduled meeting is on Friday, the 1st of May 2026, 10:30 at West Offices in York. Thank you, everyone.